Support the channel on Another Round Boxing Store. Click the link in the description.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Another Round. I am Mike Thompson. I'm here with my co-host Hamza Hanif. We are literally just drying off from a massive hurricane, the exotically named Hurricane Ian. But thoughts to everybody who's been affected by that. We were lucky we didn't get anything too bad, so it's been good. But today we're going to go over the massive British rival, probably the biggest rivalry in boxing history, but definitely British boxing history. It's Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. And then we're going to go over, look ahead to Deontay Wilder's return to the ring against Robert Helenius, and also go over some other fights as well, including the AJ Fury fight, whether it's going to go ahead or not. How you doing, mate? How's everything going over there?
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. I'm just glad that we're here.
Yeah.
Your home is still standing. That Ian didn't, because I was quite concerned, man. Ian was a ferocious one, wasn't he? So
why are they calling him Ian? Like, give it a bit more of a cooler name. I don't want my house taken out by Ian,
bro.
Steve,
you don't,
or Jemima, or whoever the other one was.
Jemima. Bro, what you want is you want something frightening. You want something that will scare the shit out of people. It will make people batten down. It will make people flee. You know, it will make people take all of the precautions that they need to take. Because Ian, people are gonna be, Hurricane Ian's coming. Well, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, all jokes aside, though, it did look like a bad one, and I'm
yeah, it was pretty bad.
You're all right, mate. Because obviously
by that, we were very lucky, but by base where we were okay. But yeah, no, it looked pretty bad. There's cars floating down the road in Naples, and that
fucking hell, yeah.
But anyway, no, massive fight this next weekend, and huge rivalry between. We were talking about this before. Like, this is probably one of the reasons we got into boxing growing up. You know, watching as a kid. I mean, I was a big fan of Frank Bruno, and I loved watching Mike Tyson, Frank Bruno, Lennox Lewis. But also one of the biggest rivalries when we were growing up was Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn, because they were just absolute bangers, absolute amazing fights. And I remember staying up to watch them. And now, unbelievably, I don't know how often this has happened. I don't know if it's ever happened before, but
I think it has.
The sons of the two fighters are now fighting each other.
Yeah.
Massive size difference, and therefore that's why they've got a non-hydration clause in the contract for Chris Eubank Jr. for him to fight at 158. Is it 158? I think. Yeah,
I think it is. I think he's got to drop down to 158, but he has to also enter the ring at 100. He can't rehydrate to it. You know, I think there's something there where
10% rehydration, so he can't go too much over. And there's no, in my opinion, he's not going to make that weight. I just don't see him making it. I've seen him eating worse than me. It's like he's eating cream eclairs and stuff. I don't understand.
I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on there because I've seen this. I've been following on Insta, and do you know what it is? Yeah. Like, sometimes I think Chris Eubank Jr. can come off as a bit of a bell end, but he has actually been hilarious throughout this, like with the 60% baby and like t-shirt, and like, you know, he's out for meals all the time. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally out for meals. He's eating sticky toffee pudding. He's doing it all. So I think
they're like, quick, give me the sticky toffee pudding. He pretends to eat, and then they're like, cut. Like, give me the salad. Pass me the salad right now.
There was one story that he had on Instagram, right, where he cut into this like thing, and it was, I don't know what it was, but it was oozing caramel, right? And it was oozing caramel, and he made sure to show the camera him putting it in his mouth and swallowing it. And I bet you that was the only bite he fucking took.
Mate, it's all fine and well if he makes the weight, but I think if he fails the weight, isn't there like hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line? Like,
I've heard it's per pound. Like, I've heard it's like, so it's like
thousands of pounds per pound, literally per pound. Mate, bad.
Yeah, I guess it makes it fair, like, because
Yeah.
I think the fight, it's a weird fight, this one, mate, because it's like a gimmick, but it's not a gimmick, because it's a gimmick as in they're using the rivalry to manufacture another fight, you know, 20 years, 30 years later, or whatever it may be. So it's like that in itself is a gimmick. The two fighters involved, Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., they're not gimmicks in my opinion. They're both fringe world level fighters. So in order to kind of, so it's kind of a gimmick, it's kind of not a gimmick. They both can actually really fight. They're both credible boxers, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I think in order to make it happen, this sort of fantasy fight, they had to do a little bit of to and fro with the weight, because I mean, look at there's a considerable size difference between the pair.
Yeah, Conor Benn's what, 5'8", 5'9". Eubank Jr. is about 5'11", just under 6 foot. So big difference in reach. Big difference in weight. Naturally, Chris is more of a middleweight, if not super middleweight. Conor Benn is definitely, you know, a welter. And to be honest, like, they are both fast and they can both punch. They both got knockouts. I mean, I think Conor Benn has got a higher knockout ratio, but he's also newer and he's not been around for as long. He's coming through the game, so you could argue his opposition hasn't been as good. Chris Eubank also hasn't faced the most amazing opposition, but he's also can bang and he's also knocking people out, but he hasn't as recently. So it's a difficult one. From what I remember as well, I think Chris Eubank comes out slower. He starts slower. Is that right? So I can imagine Conor Benn coming out fast.
I think the problem with it is, right, it depends on the weight, in my opinion. It depends how much the weight takes out of Chris Eubank Jr. Because I don't think Conor Benn, he could come out like a fucking lightning bolt. I don't think he has the power to knock Eubank Jr. out. You've got to think, right? We've got to put a little bit of respect on Eubank Jr.'s name. I don't think he inherited the way that he fights, the way that his father fought, you know, because his father, I think at 32 years old, had retired, which is what Chris Eubank Jr. is now. And I think by 30, he defended his world title 14 times. So they're a completely different breed of fighter, senior and junior. Yeah. But he did seem to inherit that granite chin that a senior had. And you have to remember, Eubank Jr. has been in with super middleweights, world-class super middleweights like Groves, and he hasn't been knocked down. Yeah, he's been thoroughly outclassed and he's been beaten by Groves, but he was never knocked down. He never looked like he was about to be knocked down. He's never, in fact, in any fight that I've seen, that he's lost, I've never seen him look in trouble in terms of, oh, he's on the ropes and he's going to get finished. It's always been, he's getting outboxed and he's running out of ideas. You know what I mean? So I just don't, I think if the weight really impacts him negatively, I think that might be the only chance that Conor Benn has to knock him out. I think for people to think that Conor Benn's just going to knock him out, I can't see that happening. I just can't.
Well, I mean, also, you mentioned that the Eubanks were two different fighters. So are the Benns. Like, Conor Benn is a much more technical fighter than his dad was. His dad was much more of a banger as well. And Conor has kind of grown into knocking people out, because he was a points winner in the beginning. I remember he just used to win on points, and he always was just very fast. He's just naturally very fast, and he's much more technical than his dad. And his dad was saying, you know, when I watch Conor Benn train, it's just unbelievable. It's just not anything that I ever did when I was a pro. And he's such a better trainer. He works a lot harder than I ever did. And he's definitely worked harder.
Which is crazy in it, because if you look at how successful Nigel Benn was, and like how cut he was in such incredible shape, and then for him to be like, yeah, man, like like this guy trains like so much better than, you know, it is. I mean, Conor Benn must be training like an absolute machine. Yeah,
I think he is. I think he is. And he's worked harder for this fight. You know, you've got Chris Eubank coming out saying, oh, I only need to be 60%. He obviously, whether or not that's bravado, and what he's saying is just something to, you know, for the media, a soundbite, or whether he's actually training hard. I know for a fact he's not training hard as Conor Benn. So Conor Benn's taking it seriously. it's how big of a size difference is there. You know, if Chris Eubank Jr. comes in at 165 and he's a couple pounds over, they're going to let him fight. Are they going to let him fight? Are they going to fine him 300,000, whatever, and say, hey, you can still fight, but we're docking you this amount from your wages? Or are they going to say fights off because that's not fair because you're way over than what you're supposed to be?
I can't see Conor Benn beating him over 12 rounds. I just can't see that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm completely wrong, and he's going to come in tomorrow, because you got to think as well, Conor Benn's really quite unproven as well. Yeah, he's had some big wins recently, but they were against aging fighters. They were against fighters who were, you know, Chris Algieri's the big one, Chris Van Heeden as well. Yeah. You know, some good names on his CV, but it's like, it's guys who aren't hungry lions coming up, whose family names on the line, you know. So I don't see him putting Eubank down, and I don't see him knocking him out. So like, it's okay when it's all one-way traffic and you're bullying Van Heeden around the ring and he's reacting to every feint you throw and he's reacting to every punch you throw, and you know, it's completely, you're dictating the pace of the fight. If you want to move them to the ropes, that's what you're going to do, you know. It's completely different when you've got somebody in there who's walking you down, who's putting Wilder found that out against Fury. Like, it's completely different when you're forced to fight off a game plan that's not actually yours and that doesn't play to your strengths. So there's a lot of unknowns about Conor Benn, and it's like, we're going to find those out against a guy who's naturally 2 weight classes bigger than him. So it's like, it's a bit of a mad one, you know what I mean?
When this fight got called a couple of months ago, there was rumors of this fight a couple of months ago. You and I, too early for Conor Benn, and we said, I think it's too early for him, and also, like, why is he taking this fight? The guy's way bigger and he's completely couple weight divisions above him, and
he's no slouch either as well. It's not like he like, you know, he might not be a world champion, but he's a fringe world level fighter. It's not like he's just some guy who's, you know, got the Eubank name.
If you're Eubank Jr., like, even, you know, and you're Ben Jr., in the beginning, they got so much criticism in the media, and both of them have worked hard at some point to get to a certain level, because they were both very average in the beginning. Well, but it just shows you what hard work will do, you know? Definitely,
100%. And I think I was watching an interview today with Eubank Jr., and he alluded to that. He goes, we're actually quite similar. We're actually more similar than we are, like than we're not, because when we came into this game, everybody thought we were gimmicks. So we worked our asses off to put people, to knock people out, to put on shows where there was no doubt that we were far superior to our opponents. Because we wanted to step out of our father's shadows, you know what I mean? And they've both successfully done that so far.
Yeah. No, that shows you how driven they've been to get out of that, because they don't want people to think they've just been handed everything and everything's been given to them.
It's fast. Yeah.
When
he shoots, he doesn't miss.
It's not a fight that I can really call, if I'm honest with you. I think it depends how strict they are on Eubank being at 158, because if he comes in at that weight, he will be drained and it will be a huge disadvantage. And if Conor Benn starts quickly, he can rack up either some points or he can build on some kind of a knockdown. I don't see either one getting knocked out. Maybe Conor Benn might get knocked out. I don't want to see either of them get knocked out, and I want it to be a good 12 round. I can see it definitely going 12 rounds though.
I can definitely see it going 12 rounds. Your prediction. My actual prediction is a knockout. I can see both of it going. I can see both men surviving. But I do think that Chris Eubank Jr. will trap him in the corner in the middle rounds of, and the referee will be forced to jump in, because I don't think he's going to catch him with a single shot that's going to put him away. But I keep looking back to fights like Spike Sullivan, Nick Blackwell, where he was able to put them in the corner and just go to work. And there wasn't very much that they could do. And I'm not saying that Conor Benn isn't as good as those guys, but I just think that weight, that size, and I think if Eubank Jr. can make it count, I can only see this going one way. It could go 12 rounds, but if I'm forced into making a prediction, I think it's going to be Eubank Jr. in the middle rounds.
Well, no, because I just see it being very close. I just be seeing it very, very close. I think split this, maybe like a win for Eubank on points. But I don't know. It's a very, very hard one. And it all depends on how strict they are with the guidelines on how drained he is physically when he comes in, because he's obviously a much bigger guy than Conor Benn. So, and I don't really like them fighting each other because one of them's going to lose and it's not good for either of them. But
I think it's a bit of a freak fight. I think we're in the era of the freak fights a little bit right now. We're kind of going through the freak fight stage.
It's a bit left center, isn't it? Of the
yeah, you know what I mean. It's like we're gonna have presidents and prime ministers and politicians throwing down soon. You know what I mean?
I would love that. I'll be honest.
So, you know.
No, but please don't roll out Mayweather again. I hope Mayweather doesn't need the money because I just don't want to see him fighting anymtle. Like that fight he just had with that Japanese guy. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, we don't need.
He's fighting some. He's fighting. What's his name, man? That guy. You know, the guy who's. What's his name?
It's ridiculous.
He's a singer. What's his name?
I don't.
He's fighting that guy's brother. You know that KSI. KSI. That's it. He's fighting his brother.
I don't care. I don't know his name, and I don't care. And
the thing is, who is watching this shite? Because it's like legendary Hall of Fame, possibly greatest of all time, fights a guy who goes on YouTube every now and again. I wonder who's going to win that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what the fuck, man? You know what I mean?
It's stupid. I'm not interested in exhibitions because it's not real, and I have no interest in exhibitions.
Yeah. It's only real if you get knocked out, I think.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in YouTubers either.
It's only real if... No, I don't give a fuck about that, yeah.
Yeah, because YouTubers are fighting each other for real. But I don't care. But there's some guy called Fantastic Broom or Austin McFlurry or whatever his name is. I do not care. Like, I do not know who you are, and I couldn't care less. Do you know what I mean?
I think to a degree, I'm more for that than I am. I'm always up to watch a scrap. It has to be competitive though, and this Floyd Mayweather stuff, it's not competitive at all. It's just him going around beating the shit out of random YouTubers.
Look, I'm gonna say this I'm gonna try and say this without being disrespectful as fuck. Okay, ASF, right? I thought Mayweather, in as great as he is, I thought he was boring to watch when he was an actual fighter, and I definitely don't want to watch him now. When he's mulling around just doing this, pretending in an exhibition. I do not care about some weirdo Japanese guy who I've never heard of get knocked out because he wants people to be like, oh, he's amazing. It's not a real fight and it doesn't count, so I don't care. Anyway, end off.
A little bit off tangent there. I just want to say DAZN are premiering Eubank Senior versus Nigel Benn, the first fight tonight on YouTube. Great. So any new fans who haven't seen that fight, people now, like my girlfriend, for example, she knows Eubank Senior for being like a television personality, you know, from like from going on MasterChef and stuff. But like, I'm like, no, this guy's a beast. This guy, you know what I mean?
You would never think he had the warrior code, would you? When he walks around with a walking stick and a monocle and wears with his
little tweed jacket on, with his tight. It's so tight. I know he looks good, but his clothes are so tight fitting. It's like, come on, Chris. I know you're in shape, but come on.
Oh man, yeah. So anyway, that I'm gonna watch that. That'll be interesting to watch because that was just bang after bang. They were just banging each other up, bro.
You know, I was watching an interview from I think it might have been Eddie Hearn. He was talking about it because I think his dad managed Chris Eubank Sr. at the time, and he was saying that during the fight, Eubank Senior was hit that hard that his entire tongue was like a chunk got taken out of his tongue. And if you look at that fight, the punches that they were, that Eubank Jr. especially took, it was crazy. Great fight.
Amazing. Well, speaking of massive great fights, we're talking about the two chins of boxing. Well, also the fists of boxing. Joe Joyce and Joe Parker, just to go over that reaction. And I've got to just air out the phrase that Joe Joyce came out. If anyone didn't hear that, everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the face, except for me, because he's got the strongest chin in boxing. Unbelievable. I would love to see Joe Joyce versus Deontay Wilder It's like the hardest puncher versus the strongest chin.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. But tell me about what you thought about the Parker Joyce fight. What your thoughts were from watching it?
Yeah, it was. To be honest, it was actually one of my favorite heavyweight fights of this year. You know, and it's weird because Parker has been in the other fight of the year for me as well for heavyweight. So Parker has really done himself proud. The fight kind of played out in style wise the way I thought it was going to, which was going to be relentless pressure by Joyce, a lot of jabs. I thought Parker would fight in reverse. I didn't expect him to rely on his right hand as much. It seemed like that was the only shot that was working. And fair play to Parker, he was landing that shot, and a lesser man would have at least backed up. Do you know what I mean? But you know, Joyce just wasn't having that. He wasn't backing up at all.
I think there's nothing more demoralizing when you've hit someone, you've hit them clean, and you know you've hit it properly and you've timed it right, and you crack them. And they just don't. They don't move.
I said that during the fight. I said that. I said
you saw Joe Parker's whole entire confidence, and he was just drained out of him when he smashed Joe Joyce a couple of times, and Joe Joyce just blinked and just kept moving forward. I was like, wow, this guy is. I mean, I didn't believe his density thing where he was talking about he's 5 times denser than the average man. But now,
he certainly
took him out the window, dude, and he'll do more damage to the ground. My God.
He's gone up massively in my estimation as well, because it's like what we talked about as well is Joe Joyce is one of those guys. He's slightly older. He hasn't fought anybody like where you've really sat up and said, wow, this guy's going to be a world champion based off of that victory. Based off of that victory there, he is going to be a world champion. And I think we can turn around now and we can say that for sure. Like, I think Joe Joyce can be a world champion and probably likely will be a world champion.
Yeah. I think he will, definitely.
He fought out of his skin. It was such an impressive, and he controlled the fight as well. Like that was the thing. It was, you know, Parker was reacting to everything he was doing. It was Joe Joyce's fight, in terms of the way he dictated the pace of the fight. But what a chin, man! And do you know what it is? I just want to give credit to Parker because from about round 6 onwards, Parker looked done. Like in terms of cardio wise, he looked completely sapped of energy. He looked completely, but he had an answer. Every time he was getting cracked, he was coming back with a little quick 1-2. He was moving. He was still very much in the fight. And I think up until the point where his lights got shut out by that left hook, he was still in the fight. And like, I don't think he was in the fight as in to win it, but he was surviving in the fight. And I thought this is going to go 12 rounds. You know what I mean? Until Joyce found that punch. Because Parker is so incredibly tough. Amazing fight, mate. It lived up to everything that I hoped it would. It is now my favorite fight of the heavyweights this year. Obviously, maybe not in terms of the opponents that he's got. I think he's the unofficial 3rd best heavyweight on the planet right now.
Yeah, that's if he fights like he fights, and if he raises his game to his level of opposition, provided he fought like he did against Joe Parker. Man, the world is his oyster. He will become a world champion, whether it's
he's the only person who stopped Parker as well. He's the only person.
The only one that's knocked him out. He's the only one who's knocked him out, and I could see.
And it didn't come easy. It didn't come easy. No, I mean, Parker didn't exactly roll rounds,
over. Mate, he looked out from 3rd round, and I thought, man, he's going to do well if he doesn't go down. And he kept going on and on. I could see in Joe Parker, I was like, he's ready to go. And then when he smacked him, and I could just tell by the way he fell, he wasn't getting up. I knew.
No, that was it.
I knew.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
They did the slow-mos after the round, after the fight ended. They did the slow-mos, and there was a camera angle of the punch from behind. So of behind Joyce as he delivers the shot, and literally, it's mad because Parker's got some insane recovery. He was unconscious when he hit when his back hit those ropes. Eyes were in the back of his head, and then for that he got up for the 10 count. That was the mental thing about it. He actually got up. Obviously, he was in no fit state to continue the fight, but he got up.
Shouldn't have done either. Shouldn't have done. Plus, no, well deserved to Joe Joyce, and I think he can go all the way. I really do.
Yeah.
But moving on from granite chin to granite fist, big fight as well is Deontay Wilder, Robert Helenius. I'm not going to spend too long on this because I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. These boys, they spar each other every day. They're very familiar with each other. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's some kind of arrangement. I didn't say that. Maybe I did. But
you're going to get sued, bro. You're going to get sued.
So all I'll say this is Wilder's going to win this convincingly. I think he's going to knock him out within 6 rounds, something like that. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy for him. Easy.
Yeah. I can't see Helenius doing anything to Wilder, you know. I think Wilder's going to be coming back as well, and he's going to want to sort of stamp his authority on the heavyweight division. He's been back he's come back after a long layoff. You know, he's come back from back-to-back defeats. He wants to now. He's probably very well aware of how many fights he has left. You know, he's got a couple of big ones left in him.
Actually, you know, when they did that statue unveiling, he actually came out and said, I want to fight 3 times a year, and I want to fight as much as I can until I get to 40. That's what he said. Whether or not that's true.
I mean, to be honest, he definitely could. But I think in terms of big fights, I think he's got a couple left in him. I think he's got AJ.
He's got a few, in my opinion. He's got Andy Ruiz Jr. He's got AJ.
That's not a massive fight though. It's a big fight for the heavyweights, but it's not a massive fight in terms of
AJ Wilder.
No, AJ Wilder's a massive fight. Sorry, I thought you meant Ruiz.
I'll tell you why Ruiz is a massive fight. It's a massive fight for the American viewer because it's the 2 best American heavyweights, as we know.
Yeah.
If you're not counting Jared Anderson's very young and he's still coming through. But Andy Ruiz Jr. and Deontay Wilder are the 2 best American heavyweights. That would be a massive.
Andy Ruiz is definitely Mexican.
He calls it. Well, here's the thing. He was born in America.
Was he actually?
Yeah, and
I don't know. Could he even speak English?
He's dual citizen. And the Americans will say when he wins he's American, when he loses he's Mexican. So
I think Wilder is going to look to make a statement. I think this is going to be a statement fight for Wilder. I think Helenius is at the point in his career where he's not going to come in with that do or die attitude. I think it's going to be one of those nights for Helenius where he's going to box and he's going to move and he's going to try and be sensible.
Helenius is a big stiff guy as well. You call AJ. I thought you
were going to call him a big stiff idiot there. You know, for a second I was like, come on.
Tyson Fury, yeah. No. Tyson Fury calls AJ a big stiff idiot, but AJ looks like a
ballerina,
a salmon in the ocean compared to he looks like a dolphin compared to Helenius. The way he moves, like Helenius is he's just like an analog fighter. He looks like he's fighting in 2D, mate.
But I think as well. I think not only that as well. I think a fighter can come in with the mentality of I'm here for a payday. You know what I mean? Like we've seen it so many times. I think
that's what's going to happen, mate.
Yeah, like he's gonna take 1 or 2, and then as soon as he catches a clean hard one, I think he's thinking that's it, right? Oop, that's enough for me. That's it. I'll take that cash. I'll take that check, and that's it. I've took my right hand, and I'm going home. He's not gonna rise like the Undertaker, like Fury is. No. You know what I mean? It's not that kind of vibe.
If he gets knocked down, he's not gonna do 8 count, get back up, and keep on.
Yeah,
because. At the end of the day, Wilder's cherry-picked this fight. He's let's be honest.
He's
cherry-picked somebody he knows. He knows he's sparred with him, so he knows he's got the better of him already.
And by the way, I think he's due a cherry pick. I'm not saying that because he's coming back from a long layoff. He used to be a world champion. He's just fought Fury, the hardest fight in the heavyweight division 3 times. I think he deserves something to get his confidence back and to get him sort of back in everyone's sort of sphere of consciousness and sort of get his name back out there. I think he deserves that.
Yeah, and speaking of cherry picking, this leads me nicely onto AJ Fury because I think AJ needs to cherry pick his next 2 fights. I think he needs to have 2 easy knockouts to get his confidence back up, get back into the mix. Instead, this fight with Fury is all wrong for AJ. I'm not saying that AJ will.
There's a lot to play for, though, isn't there? You know, in terms of status, in terms of ranking in the heavyweight division, that there's a lot to play for in this fight.
There is, mate. It's gonna be an awesome matchup, and I can't wait for this weekend. And that's been another episode of Another Round.
Like, comment and subscribe to Another Round Boxing channel. Yeah, baby, let's go.